I really hope that my mic audio is working this time, because the last time we sat out here and had a conversation, I come to find out I played the video back and there was no audio. Or, I mean, there was audio, but it was really hard to hear. So I don't know what happened. But it's fitting for the conversation, because that's got to be the close second, top two most important components of a podcast. I would say your audio is number one, and then your conversation is number two. Because if you got the conversation and you don't have the audio, then no one's going to hear what you have to say. So, granted, there's way more to it than that, but top two, audio and conversation. With that being said, we are continuing on with our podcast. It's on a completely different channel. And I think we are going to actually record episode number 5 later on this afternoon or this evening, before we then spend some time relaxing by the pool, or actually fireside. We're going to go down and hang out by the fire pit. So that should be a lot of fun. Starting a podcast. They say, I think you have this pod fade or there's some sort of term for it, where people pretty much basically give up on their podcast before it really gets a chance to get going, gets traction. And technically, I mean, we've made thousands of videos, but officially episode number 5 coming up. And they say the first 7 are the hardest to stay consistent and motivated and on track. And if you can make it to number 8, then you're golden. Kind of like the first 2 years of business. If most businesses fail within the first 2 years. So if you make it past the first 2 years, and you're at a higher likelihood and percentage of succeeding beyond that. But I don't think we're going to have any trouble making it to 8. The reason why we even took a break at all was because we had family visiting, and we had our studio. We broke down the studio because it's a guest room, and we just didn't want to pull away from them to, record when we only had limited time with them in town. So now we're back to a much more regular routine schedule. And we've got the studio set back up again. And I've got some pretty interesting topics of discussion and conversation for this episode number 5. And I think probably the more important answers to the questions are, how do you make money with a podcast? That's going to be the kicker, I think, really and truly. Because, I mean, obviously there's certain things you can do for fun, for sure. But the way I look at it is, if it's fun, that's an added bonus. But why am I just going to do it for fun when other people are doing it for fun and getting paid? So, I'm looking to diversify my income streams. I'm looking to monetize in every way possible. So this is just another way to do it, and another great way to have fun and entertaining conversations with other people, primarily my wife, but friends and maybe just guests that we haven't made friends with yet, but guests on the podcast. So either way, we kind of went a little all out in our equipment to make sure we had everything we need to have a professional podcast. This is very important, according to Michelle. So we couldn't just run our podcast using DJI mics and Samsung Galaxies, and no, we had to go all out. So we got everything for the professional look, feel, and sound of a podcast. But then the other thing is, how do you run a podcast? Because YouTube would prefer and love for more podcasts to exist on the platform. Just another way for them to offer more advertising products, more ways to diversify their income and revenue streams. But there's actually templates out there, which I just ran mine the way I wanted to run mine. But there's templates out there. And the templates are ideal, especially for structure and for time management. But I would prefer for the podcast and the conversation to flow as naturally as possible. So it could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be an hour and a half, it could be 2, it could be 3, however long. So I do have my own somewhat format, but I've always kind of just taken everything in stride. It's always pretty much a fluid situation, and just go with it. Go with the flow. It is what it is, you know? So either way, to get started with a podcast, I think, obviously you have to be able to communicate, put your thoughts to words, put your opinion to words, effectively communicate to an audience and describe something to someone who may potentially not be watching you. Therefore, your vocabulary and ways in which you're going to be very descriptive, and your choice of adjectives and adverbs and everything, maybe even some of the sound effects that you use, or the references or examples that you provide, or analogies, like all of these and metaphors are going to help paint the picture in the mind of the listener, of the audience. Even still, our podcast is recorded, like video recorded and uploaded, but there's really not much to see besides us just sitting there. So we really have to be expert wordsmiths in order to relay thoughts and opinions and emotion and feeling to the audience in the podcast. But we enjoy it. Michelle gets really excited when we get to do these, and I think there's a lot of reasons behind it, but also the fact that she never knows what they're going to be about before we start. So it's always walking into a surprise. And I try to make it interesting. So nothing too crazy, nothing over the top. We try to keep it real, nothing made up, no phony, fictitious exaggerations just to try to bring in interest and virality. We want it to be organic, natural, cool, calm, collected, like chill, lots of laughs. But it's like the simplest and easiest way to carry on this conversation is if it is legit and real, so that you don't have to then think back and look back and remember and keep notes on what you thought or what you said or what you told somebody because it wasn't true. So we just try to keep it 100. Interestingly enough, Michelle, she put up a video today, a really great video about the current state of the banking system. And I felt like listening and watching, I was really listening to it as we were walking through Target. I had it up to my ear just listening to it. And I also, the same with her Squirrel Tribe 2.0 video. Y'all might want to go check that one out. I'll say that the Squirrel Tribe 2.0 video, there's a lot of folks getting very triggered and opinionated in the comment section. And it's also fairly evident that they didn't actually listen to what she said in the video. So it's funny how people create these thoughts and ideas and opinions on things that never actually happened. And it's just interesting how the human brain works, or in this instance doesn't. But it all makes for an entertaining and engaging conversation that then will carry on into sequels and subsequent additional episodes. But her Squirrel Tribe video, she was talking about the whole banking system and the crazy stuff that's happening with JP Morgan Chase and Jamie Dimon. And I think the writing's on the wall, folks. But interestingly enough, a lot of what we discuss, a lot of what we talk about on camera and off camera, they don't teach you in school. They didn't teach me in school. Maybe in college, maybe, but realistically, they don't really teach you. Because what we're going through right now is like, mostly survival skills and common sense and street smarts. And this, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, basically. But I will say, they do teach in school. Now, granted, I'm going to get sidetracked here. The whole money management, credit cards, finances, personal finances, that they don't. So if you want more of that, then, make sure you check out Michelle Squirrel Tribe's video. But as far as this opportunity that exists to pretty much almost anybody, and a income producing opportunity, a side hustle opportunity, a communicative opportunity just to express yourself and maybe connect with others, which I think is really important right now. We watched Kara and Nate, which we need to watch their latest that just came out. It's the second video of their triple tandem bicycle ride across America. But one of their main sponsors, another way to make money with these videos and podcasts are sponsors. One of their main sponsors is BetterHelp, to help folks manage the challenges of mental stress and anxiety and therapy, basically. So letting it out and having the ability for others to listen, far better than keeping it bottled up inside until obviously one day you can't keep it inside anymore. And that's when things really start to get bad. But I do know that in school, they do teach broadcasting and communication, okay? And that's definitely a plus. But I think what they should probably start doing is also teaching online and virtual side hustle, gig work, small business entrepreneur opportunities, quite like YouTube, quite like TikTok, quite like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Spotify, Fiverr, Etsy, eBay, Craigslist. The list goes on and on. And I think they should teach that so people understand what options exist and also how they can use these in the real world. For instance, I think in school, they started teaching coding. I think they're actually teaching gaming, which I got to talk about gaming. Gaming, they're pulling back on gaming. So gaming is not going to be quite as lucrative as it was in the past. That is going to change, much like everything else. And if you're staying ahead of the curve, then you'll stay profitable in this transition. But they said that it was too much of a bidding war, and they're changing how they're going to pay these top gamers. But either way, if we started teaching this in school, thinking back, hindsight's 2020, about how terrible a lot of folks are today, how much worse off they are, how much better off they could have been if they had the proper and adequate training for personal finance, budgeting, making money, spending money, saving money, investing, credit, debt, loans, everything, the whole nine, how much better off people would be. Well, if we take that same thought process and philosophy and apply it to, okay, well, why don't we think ahead 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road? What should we be teaching people now? Not just the standard textbook curriculum and syllabus that we've always been doing, but what should we be teaching them now that they'll really need in the future? And really honing in on technology and marketing and AI and virtual reality, augmented reality, the digital space. This is the future. But if you came out of high school and you're like, I took YouTube, I took social media as an elective. Well, shoot, you may come out of high school with, your own small business entrepreneur income that you've created before you even go to college, before you even get your first real job, because they taught you valuable life skills that will pay dividends in the long run.